We are talking with Rachel Lewis about her upcoming book, Unexpecting. Rachel, thanks so much for taking the time to chat today.
Yes, thanks so much for having me.
Now, the loss of a pregnancy is a common thing, but it's not a very common thing when it happens to a person. It's not common to them. What are some of the things that you experienced when this happened to you that led to this book?
Well, I just didn't really know what to expect. I went through 5 pregnancy losses over a course of 5 years, and each one of those losses was very different. And because my losses were a little early, I had a lot less information about what to expect from my body, from my emotions, even my mental health and my spiritual life. And looking for resources, I just saw this huge gap. Whereas like I need a book that is just sort of a guide that can help me and help anybody really just know what to expect and to be equipped and prepared so that they can take care of themselves in their grief and they can help take care of their partner.
What are some of the challenges you've faced, both in sort of the day to day of life and then sort of the long term after each of these losses?
So, kind of long term, I would say grief invalidation was a really like a difficult struggle for me to overcome. And that was both internal and external. Pregnancy loss is typically considered an ambiguous loss. It's not always, but sometimes. And that kind of means that people see the loss as more of the loss of the concept of a baby or the idea of a baby
Mhm.
versus the actual death of a baby. And that can make it very hard to understand what you've lost and what is an appropriate response. And then also, our society is just tends to be really bad at grief anyway. And so it's just kind of this double whammy of invalidation. So it's hard to just accept, it was hard for me to accept my grief without judging it or comparing it or discounting it. I'd say in the day to day, grief triggers were a really difficult thing to navigate. I was trying to parent my living child and still run a business and work, while at the same time I felt like I was walking in an emotional minefield where I didn't know when there was just going to be this explosion of intense emotion and how to deal with that. Sometimes I knew when to expect it and sometimes I didn't. But navigating that and kind of the um, like the repercussions of that in relationships and just day-to-day life was incredibly challenging.
Hmm. What were some of the challenges that you faced when it came to your faith? You go through some losses like this. I'm sure that there were times when it wasn't easy.
Oh, absolutely. Looking back, I would say that prior to my losses, my grief or my faith was a little bit of a transactional faith. I don't know that I would have said that at the time, but I kind of came to God as like this: you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like if I just do enough good things and I'm just kind of follow your word and do what I'm supposed to do, that somehow I'm going to have these blessings in my life and you're going to answer my prayers the way I expect. And so when that didn't happen, I felt unseen. I felt overlooked. I felt betrayed. I felt angry. And to be honest, it unearthed in me this desire or need to question everything. And at first, that caused a lot of shame as a communicator that has faith, as well as somebody who went to Bible school and has degrees in Bible and theology, to say, like, I am really struggling with my faith. That's not something I wanted to say, least of all to God. But what I came to realize is that it was a much more authentic expression of faith for me to say, God, I am struggling. I feel angry. I feel betrayed. And I'm going to be really honest with you about how I feel. Like that was a bigger indication that I trusted God than for me just to spout the words that I felt like He expected me to say.
Hmm. Now, when it comes to spouting words, when people want to comfort someone who's gone through something like this, quite
Mhm.
often it's they're there. We don't know what to say. If you had some wisdom for those who want to comfort someone going through this kind of grief, what would your advice be?
So there is a quote that I love, and that is from trauma expert Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And the summary of it is that social support is actually the number one intervention that can take a traumatic event and promote healing. Or if it's not right or it's not there, it can further traumatize the person and actually make healing harder. And so it's like the most important thing. And he says that's reciprocity. That's feeling seen, that's feeling heard, that's feeling held in someone else's mind, and that's creating that visceral feeling of safety. So I know that I can't just give a long list of to do. So I would say, principally, think about as you're comforting somebody else, are you seeing them? Are you reflecting back to them their own experience? Are you hearing them? Are you being quiet? Are you spending 80% of your time listening and instead of giving answers? And actually, that lets a lot of pressure off of you. You don't have to give any platitudes, no answers for what happened. Just be an external source so that they can process what they're going through.
Mhm.
Are you holding them? Are you creating a visceral feeling of safety? And that includes um, helping provide for their physical comfort, for their physical needs, as well as just holding their hand and sitting with them and asking, like, tell me about your baby. Tell me about your birth experience. I am here and I care. And I would also just say, remember that this is a lifetime loss. They did not lose just 6 weeks or 10 weeks or 40 weeks of a pregnancy. They lost a lifetime with the baby they love. There's going to be secondary losses and triggers and anniversaries and difficult days for the rest of their life. So continue to check in, not just with the mother, but also with the father and the siblings. This is a family's loss.
Mhm.
And your continual checking in, like, I just cannot tell you how much that means to somebody to know that they are being held in your mind.
Wonderful. Well, the book is called Unexpecting. It's coming this summer from Rachel Lewis. And Rachel, thank you so much for taking the time today to give us a little snippet of what the book is about. We wish you all the best with that and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.